In his budget speech earlier this year, the Hong Kong Financial Secretary John Tsang gave special recognition to Nest for its contribution to the startup scene here in Hong Kong as the only full-service startup incubator in the city. So Simon Squibb, an angel investor of many years, is the founder and CEO of Nest, and Jessica Cheung is one of the many young people who has been captivated by Nest and its vision and charm, and currently works with Simon as an associate. So Simon and Jessica, thank you very much for coming on to Through the Eyes of Youth today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, so many of my young viewers probably haven't heard of the phrase startup incubators. Can you briefly explain what startup incubators are and how they work?
Sure. Jess, why don't you explain?
Sure. So a startup incubator is basically a place where startups can go to learn more about entrepreneurship and get their ideas off the ground. So usually the incubators will take on a startup for about 3 months and provide them with everything they need to get from point A to point B, being from an idea to a fully fledged business. I think lots of companies do this in different ways, and so it can vary from 3 months of support to 12 months or a year, but that's generally what they do.
And Nest calls itself a group, quote, a group of entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. So what is so entrepreneurial about Nest? Like, what's so distinctive about the Nest model that makes you so highly regarded?
Well, I think we've all been through helping build a company from scratch. So we know what it takes. And I think this is very important. I mean, a lot of the time, money on its own is not enough to make a company successful. Certainly at Nest we offer money, we put money into the startups, that's certainly part of our value proposition. But what we believe is much more important is this help, this support system. So at Nest itself we have 12 people that help the founders of those companies, and we have a mentor network of 45 people again that help these startups, and then we leverage our network. I've been in Hong Kong 18 years, and my colleagues, Jennifer Carver, for example, has been in Hong Kong 27 years. We leverage our network as entrepreneurs to help those entrepreneurs. We try to fast track them and give them a competitive advantage, basically.
So tell me a bit about your pitch day.
Sure. Well, this is something we've been running for 4.5 years.
Okay.
Jess, maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So every 3 months we have a pitch day, and it's open applications for anyone in Hong Kong who has a business idea. It is a 10-minute Q&A. No, it's a 10-minute pitch followed by a 20-minute Q&A with a panel of really experienced investors and entrepreneurs. So the companies come in and they pitch their idea, and I think what we look for most is the passion that they have for their ideas. And if they're successful in pitch day, we'll kind of take them in and incubate them.
It's actually very similar to a TV show called Dragon's Den. I don't know if you've seen it, but or Shark Tank. But we're basically here to give them feedback, to give them insight into what perhaps they could be doing better, or what they are doing right. And then ultimately we look to invest in those companies. We take it very seriously. We look at these companies and know that if we invest in them, it'll be a lot of our time. And if they let us invest, then it'll be a lot of their time. So we get to know each other basically after the pitch days. We spend a lot more time together. It's like an interview, but it's actually a two-way interview. We always think these pitches are two-way interviews. We need the startups, and they need us. So we're kind of in it together.
And as I understand, there are hundreds of applicants for each pitch day. So what are the most important elements that you look for in a successful applicant, or a potentially successful applicant?
Sure, it's a good question. Well, why don't I give one answer and you give one answer? I mean, what I'm always looking for is that passion. We want people that really care about the problem that they're solving. We want people that are going to follow through the hard times. We don't want people that are just doing it for the money. I mean, of course, making money and earning money and being financially successful is important, but what we're looking for, what I'm definitely looking for is focus, passion, and solving a problem that means something to that person. So that's what I look for. Jess, what do you think?
I think on top of the passion, the idea has to be a good one. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the first, like it doesn't have to be a completely new idea that no one ever has done before, but it has to be something that is unique enough to go all the way, go further. So Simon always uses the example of Facebook isn't the first social media. There was MySpace before that, but Facebook kind of overgrew that. So it's not that the idea has to be entirely the newest thing in the world, but it has to be well executed, and the person has to have a plan for that idea.
So when considering the performance of the startups that you invest in, how do you define success? Is it the pace at which the business scales up, or reaching the IPO milestone, or the impact on society? What is it?
the question of what is success comes up quite a lot. I think ultimately for the founders it's often bringing their dream or their vision to life and making it actually happen. So that sometimes is success on its own. Of course, as investors, we will ultimately always be measured by the financial return on our investment. But often success can also come in the forms of solving a problem that means something. So for example, we partnered up with AIA to build an accelerator program in the healthcare space. And the whole thesis around the program is we want to help people that are designing and building startups in healthcare and ultimately create startups that make people's lives better. And help people, for example, live healthier lives, live longer, healthier, more exciting existence. So, but from our side, success actually ends up being getting a product in the hands of people that make their lives better. And yes, hopefully that also equates as investors to a financial return, but that's not the only way to measure success.
Right. Now, Nest has no less than 48 companies under its portfolio. Is there any one company that you believe to be particularly successful, regardless of how you measure success?
Well, you know, that's like asking us to pick which child we love the most.
Right.
It's quite a tough one. I mean, of course, we're invested literally, physically and personally in all of those ideas and all of those businesses. But each of them bring a different level of success to the table. So, for example, we invested in a company called Play2. This is a company that's doing, their tagline is games that are good for you. And part of the thesis is that they built this series of games that when you play them, not only do they potentially make you smarter, they also can fix problems like ADD. These games teach you to focus, which ultimately can fix problems as serious as ADD. And in the US, this is a massive problem. So success is them getting that product to market and solving a problem like that causes a lot of issues for parents and kids in certain markets. So success is getting that to market. Equally, we have a business in the US that we've invested in that just did a Series A and raised $20 million US. So that is success financially. But whether or not, you know, long term it becomes $1 billion company, that's another milestone. So it's still early days. I mean, we're 5 years old. We are in Hong Kong, without doubt, one of the leaders in the innovation space. But this is not an overnight thing. Building an innovation platform is decades to get right, and so we're at the forefront of it, but we're only 5 years old.
Now, from what I know, most of Nest's investments are in the sort of the technology, sector with disruptive concepts, right? And we know that technology is a very trendy and indeed very lucrative sector, but we also know that it's a very fast-changing one. Like what might be disruptive or revolutionary today might be completely dead within a few years. In fact, that example you mentioned about how Facebook just taking over MySpace and that. So will you continue to focus on the technology sector or sort of diversify your portfolio down the line?
Well, I'll try. I think what you're talking about really, there's two types, I guess, of innovation. There's the evolution, which perhaps is that Kodak does film and then along comes the digital camera. I mean, that's probably more an evolution step, but it completely disrupts Kodak, right? And wipes them out. And then you have the revolution, which is a little bit more around, let's say Napster in the music industry, and now no one wants to buy music from a record store anymore, so or CD store or whatever you call it store. They want to buy it from online. They want Spotify or iTunes. So that's probably more a revolution. And so we're looking more towards the revolution side, but it is fast-paced. But that's exactly why it's exciting, and it can completely transform industries like the finance industry is going to get completely disrupted in the next 5 to 10 years. So banks, it's going to change everything, how banks work in the future, peer-to-peer lending, this sort of concept, all the way through to healthcare, health tech, and how people look after their health and monitor their health. Insurance, of course, is up for huge disruption. So certain sectors are going to get a revolutionary change coming. And we want to be a part of that, both helping the startups themselves achieve that revolution, but also helping brands be a part of that revolution and not end up as Kodak. Because sometimes people would say, I can't do what I love because I haven't got any money. Or I can't do what I love because I don't have a network, or I don't have relationships, or I don't have experience.